chat so we can recognize you. Happy to have everyone here today. That would be better. Hello, Tawana. Hello, Eric.
Hey,
Good afternoon, my dear. How are you both doing?
Doing
good. Y'all look
great.
fantastic too, by the way.
I'm sorry?
I said y'all look fantastic, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Put your city and state in the chat so we can recognize you, please. Hello to everybody. Welcome. Welcome to the 10K Project. We are going to be streaming live on our other platforms as well. So want to welcome everyone here today. Put your city and state in the chat so we can recognize you. This is also a time for you to get your pen, paper, or favorite note-taking device out, because we're going to be asking some very direct, pointed questions today. So we're going to spend the next 8 minutes talking about what we're going to talk about, framing today's conversation, so that all of us are on one accord with regards to what's going to happen. So everybody, put your city and state in the chat so we can recognize you. We do see Fort Worth, Texas in here, but we want to know where everyone is coming from. So put your city and state in the chat so we can recognize you. I'm opening things up on our other platforms as well, and we will get started. Recognize you. But put your city and state in the chat for us. Yes, we see more people are putting their information in. Hello to everybody. Okay, there we go.
Hey, Dr. K, how you doing?
We see more people are. All righty then, almost done.
Morning.
Good morning. You want to change your name?
Oh, yes. Let's get in there and do that.
Okay then, and I am going to, let's see here. Dr. Keisha, I'm making you the official host.
Okay.
For this. So hello everybody. We have in the house, we have Fort Worth, Texas. We have Charlotte, North Carolina, Detroit. We got the Bay Area. Good morning to you. It is afternoon here on the East Coast, but good morning to you. Houston, Texas. We've got Missouri here. We've got Orlando in the house. Welcome to everybody. Got another Detroit person here. Kentucky, Virginia, Chicago. So we're happy to see everyone here today. We got Memphis in YouTube. Want to say welcome to you. We have Indiana in Facebook. So want to say hello, welcome to you. We're going to have more people coming on. We have a lot of people coming on today, and we are so excited to have all of you here. So let us frame the conversation today before Roland Martin comes on, so that when he's here, we have an opportunity to really get our questions answered. So number one question that I have for all of you is, what's the average wealth of a white family in the United States? So we're really starting with numbers here. Does anyone know what the average wealth is of a white family in the United States? Put it in the chat for me so I can see. I see here 175, I see 150. Anyone else? 300, 170, 75, 200. All right, so it's about 180 to 185 right now, depending on the reports that you see. But most of you are in the right ballpark, right? What's the average wealth of a Black family in the United States? Average wealth of a Black family. 65,000, 5,000, 50K, 35K, 58. It's anywhere from, I've seen 18 to about 25,000 average wealth. We interviewed Calvin Williams on Thursday, and he said that the average wealth transfer of a Black family is 38, I think it was, Tawana, 38,000. Right. Okay, so let's frame the decision, the conversation for today for what's going to be most helpful and the things that you don't usually see on other platforms. A lot of other platforms, and this is no disrespect to the other platforms, would have someone like Roland Martin come in and ask about reparations. Are we due reparations? Yes, absolutely. Do we think it's going to happen in the next 4 years? On a scale of 1 to 10, I'm at a 0. My question is, for your family, if your family right now is worth, or our families right now, just say on average, is worth 25,000, let's say. How can we, in the next 4 years, set the foundation for your family to be worth $180,000? Does it mean you're going to be worth $180,000 in 4 years? No, that's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is, what programs, what policies, what executive orders does Roland Martin see coming out of the Biden-Harris administration that can help your family? That's most likely to occur. Most likely to occur. That is our question for him. And we are breaking it down into 3 segments. The first segment are our businesses. Does anyone know the #1 employer of Black people in the country? #1 employer. Oh, thank goodness, that's not my dog today. Y'all may hear my dog in the future, but that's not my dog right now. #1 employer. Somebody got it, the government. Y'all are good. Y'all are smart. Y'all have probably been in here with us for a while. #1 employer of Black people is the government. What's the #2 employer? And the military is part of the government, Daniel, but that's a great one there. #2 employer. #2 employer of Black people. Got some good things in here. Healthcare, FedEx, not quite. Not quite. #2 employer of Black people. Does anyone know? Kind of food service. Black businesses. Black businesses is the #2 employer. Can anyone tell me what the problem is with Black businesses? Black women, for example, are the #1 creators of businesses in the country right now. But what is the problem with Black businesses? Undercapitalized, not able to pay a decent wage. We don't make as much as our, exactly. There was a study that was done that said that when we start businesses, we start off with 1/3, 33% of the money of our counterparts. So our counterparts are able to start businesses where they're able to employ people. And because of that, they have average revenues of $750,000 a year. Black businesses usually are solo businesses, and we have average revenues of $68,000 a year. So we're dividing today into 3 sections. The first section is businesses. What can we expect from the Biden-Harris administration with regards to money flowing into businesses? The second is employment. What can we expect with regards to little kids all the way up to 50 plus, with skilling us for 21st century high paying jobs? And then the third part is home ownership and land. 2/3 of white families have their wealth in their homes. We can do the same thing, and within 30 years, if you just paid off your home and you passed it to your kids, that could help close the wealth gap significantly. So I see Roland Martin is here. So hello, Mr. Martin. Welcome.
How's it going?
It's great. Very nice to have you here with us today. We were just giving everybody, a breakdown of what we were going to be talking about.
Mm-hmm.
I know it's been very busy for you, first of all, with the election season and everything. So we're so happy that you're able to join us today.
Glad to be here.
Great. Well, let's just dig right in. We wanted to, because we know you only have 30 minutes, we wanted to ask you some questions with regards to Black wealth, Black economics in the Biden-Harris administration. And the first is all about businesses. There are 4 agencies that I've identified. And what I wanted to do was hopefully get your thoughts on the things we should be looking out for with regards to like what's going to be happening with the SBA, what's going to be happening with the Minority Business Development Agency, Treasury Department, and agriculture. How are we able within our businesses to get our fair share of the money that is forthcoming within the Biden-Harris administration?
Well, the first thing is, as opposed to us waiting to see what happens, the real question is how are Black folks organized and mobilized to make demands? I think it is a huge mistake if we're waiting to see what someone is going to do, as opposed to say, no, this is what we want. So for instance, during it was 2010, I got called to a meeting at the Treasury Department when Obama was president. And what I was told is that Black and other minority firms outperformed white firms on the management of TARP funds. First question I asked was, does that mean the Black firms are going to get to manage more money? Then everybody in the room went silent. And so they were celebrating. It was a closed press event. They were celebrating this achievement, but I'm going, okay, but does that mean more money? And see, that's really sort of where we are. The data shows that Black and minority firms outperform the white firms, but these Black and minority firms are capped when it comes to private equity, when it comes to hedge funds. We should be asking different questions. We should be saying, of the nearly $1 trillion federal pension fund, how much of that's being managed by African Americans? 45% of public workers, those pension funds are Black and brown. So why is the number less than 1%? We should be sitting here, for instance, we talk about Black-owned businesses. Prior to COVID, we had 2.6 million Black-owned businesses. 2.5 million only had one employee. So we really didn't have, truth be told, we really didn't have 2.6 million Black-owned businesses. Mm-hmm. If 2.5 million only have one employee, the sole proprietorship, I'm sorry, and then they were doing an average revenue of $54,000. Now, 5 years ago, when we had 1.9 million Black-owned businesses, 1.8 million had one employee, they were doing an average revenue of $110,000. So folks were excited. Oh my God, we've increased 700,000 Black-owned businesses, but the revenue's been cut in half. So the issue that we should be looking at is capacity. We talk about contracts. Prior to Trump, there were efforts to unbundle contracts. Now, why is that important? Because if you are a Black-owned firm and you don't have the capacity to compete for a 50, 60, 75, $100 million contract, because it's a large contract, but when you unbundle those, you can actually compete for that 10, 15, $20 million contract. This goes back to Maynard Jackson when he was mayor of Atlanta. That's what he did. The rule. See, one of the things that we have to also is study the rules. So, for instance, in contracting, you can't bid on a prime contract unless you've been a prime before. Well, if you've only been relegated to small businesses, subcontracting.
To
subcontracting, well, you can never compete for a prime contract. So, what did Maynard Jackson do when he was mayor? They actually broke the large contracts up into smaller contracts, allowed for Black firms to actually compete for it to become prime. The moment they became a prime, all you got to do is be a prime one time. That now triggered them being able to bid on other contracts. So we have to be looking at that. We have to be looking at also allocation. So for instance, in 2013, the Wall Street Journal had a story, it was in March 2014, that showed that $23.09 billion in small business loans were made in 2013. Only $385 million of that went to African Americans. Why? Because of the housing crisis. African Americans don't have the same liquidity as others, and also collateral. So for most African Americans, the collateral is their home. Well, no home, no loan, no business. See, and that's when I began to challenge the Obama administration on that. There was an incoming SBA director, and then who actually had run a bank in California. And so they began to look at, how can they, sort of alter and change the rules when it comes to do that. So the thing is, if our eyes are set on Biden Harris, our eyes are looking in the wrong place. Our eyes have to be who are going to be the folks working within the agency who are going to be writing the rules. We also have to, again, because here's one of the mistakes that we make. We also go, what is the Black Caucus doing about this here? First of all, you make the assumption that folks in the Black Caucus know the minutia and the details of these various programs. So for instance, 2018, Congresswoman Eleanor Holmes Norton, she asked for the General Accounting Office to look into collective, how much money had been spent blocked by the federal government when it came to media. In 5 years, $5 billion had been spent on advertising by the federal government. Of the $5 billion, 51 million went to went to Black-owned media. That's 51 million out of 5 billion over 5 years. Just to put that in perspective, if Black-owned businesses if Black media got 15% over 5 years of the 500 billion, we're talking 750 million. We're talking about going from 51 million to 750 million. That is a game changer, those Black-owned media outlets. And so the first thing that we have to have organizations who have already compiled the data, who can then walk in and make the demands already having the information. I think, unfortunately, our Black infrastructure is doing the reverse. We're walking in saying, we need this, but we don't have the data to back it up. And so that, to me, so now the question then becomes, okay, among Black business organizations, you name it, who's going to be doing it? Who are they? Who are the entities?
That's my next question.
So
is it the Black Chamber of Commerce?
Well, you got to remember. So let's deal with that. You got the National Black Chamber of Commerce. You got U.S. Black Chamber Inc. Okay. Harry Alford runs the Black Chamber. I don't mess with them because, frankly, Harry's been used for conservative purposes. Okay, I know that game. I know the game. You got Ron Busby's group. Okay, I even challenge them to even go bigger, go harder. What we have to do is we have to say who are the 4 or 5 entities that are specifically focused on Black business. See, what we have allowed to happen is we have allowed for, and I've said this to numerous Black business groups. The other day, Thursday, I spoke to the Houston Minority Supply Development Council. I said, and there's no disrespect to civil rights organizations, you can't have civil rights leaders at the table leading the economic conversation because that ain't what they do. So your Black business groups have to step up. So you have the Black Economic Alliance that raised money, that of course was endorsing people in the campaign. We should be engaging them right now and saying, okay, you're the Black Economic Alliance. Got it. What is your agenda for Biden Harris and who you're partnering with? So Black Economic Alliance, then you have the U.S. Black Chambers Inc. Then of course, you got your Black contracting organizations. So we should have a consortium of Black business organizations who are specifically focused on Black business. What happens is we want to have a handful of organizations go in to cover Black health, Black this, Black this. No. You got to be focused. No. Black business got to say, we ain't here for the health conversation.
So
We're not here for the education conversation. We're here for the business conversation.
So can I ask you then, because that is what I often hear However, that is bigger than any individual person. So if we're talking to individuals, we have close to 130 people in here, plus all the other locations. What can we as individuals do?
You can't.
As individual entrepreneur? So you're saying we can't do anything? We
Stokely
shouldn't be looking-
Carmichael said this. This is what Stokely Carmichael said.
Mhm.
You can't show me any successful movement that did not evolve from organization. Follow me here. You can't think, when we're talking about macro, we can't operate thinking what I can do as an individual. I have to come to the table with organization. So you said we got 130 people. Got it. Okay. That's organization. Now the question is, how are you mobilizing your 130?
Correct.
Of your 130,
Because we can do it. We just need to attach ourselves to the right organizations, but we still have an individual responsibility to do
Yes.
at least that.
yeah, like for me, I mean, I have a Black-owned business, okay? And when in my Black-owned business, when I am fighting for advertising, I'm not just fighting for myself, I'm fighting for other Black media, I'm fighting for Black ad agencies, but my prime responsibility is I got to make sure I'm still in business. So I'm an individual. But when we're talking about the collective, we can't go to the table thinking we're as individuals as the collective. So this is one of the most important books, Dr. King's book, Where We Go From Here, Chaos or Community. I probably sold more copies of this book than any of the King children. I have quoted from this, all my speeches, more than a decade. This is what King writes. And this is 1967 when he wrote this book. He said there are already structured forces in the Negro community that can serve the basis for building a powerful united front. The Negro Church, the Negro Press, the Negro fraternities and sororities, and Negro professional associations. Go down. Too many Negro social and professional groups have degenerated into snobbishness and a preoccupation with frivolities and trivial activity. Now, what is he laying out there? That means that, again, it's infrastructure. I'm a life member of Alpha Phi Alpha. I look at the Divine Nine, 2 million plus members. They're international. We're international, national, regional, state, grad, undergrad, and have programming that goes all the way down to elementary school.
Mhm.
We're vertical and we're horizontal. Most importantly, we're self-funded. So the question I have been challenging the Divine Nine for years, and especially Alpha, how are you leveraging your numbers? So the same thing on the business side.
Mhm.
What has to happen is, and so my do would be, your homework is, okay, let's identify 10 Black business associations, organizations. Those that specifically cater to Black women. Are there any that specifically cater to Black men? What are the ones that specifically cater to small Black-owned businesses? There are others that cater to mid-size and large. Who are the leaders? How many members do they have? And now, all right, to each one, what is your plan? And are you moving as in a cohesive way? So now all of a sudden, it should not be Joe Biden meets with Black leaders. No, Joe Biden meets with Black education leaders. Joe Biden meets with Black business leaders. Joe Biden meets with Black health leaders. See, now we as Black entrepreneurs have got to break free ourselves. And I know this may be just, it may bother some people, but I'm trying to get you to understand why. We have got to be the ones to say, hey, no disrespect, but y'all can't be having a conversation about Black economics if you ain't never made payroll.
That's fair. That's fair enough.
If you never filled out an RFP,
That's
if you've
true.
never, you can't,
Fair enough.
because
I
you
agree.
don't know the intricacies
I agree.
of the business. I was on a phone call with a CBC member trying to walk them through how the white ad agencies devise metrics solely for the purpose of locking us out.
Mhm.
When I ran Chicago Defender, I had to walk a state representative. He was sitting there going, "We've done this, this, this." I said, "You ain't done shit." He's like, "What?" I said, "Dude, you passed a law, but you ain't the bureaucrats who write the rules."
Mhm.
And I had to walk him through, and he was shocked and stunned. I said, "Bruh, I covered City Hall. I covered county government. I saw with my own eyes how the game was being played." I said, "You're up here as the lawmaker. Down here is where the sausage gets made." And I said, "That's what you don't understand." And so right now, Biden is president-elect.
Mhm.
Okay, it's now November 21st.
Mhm.
That means there are 60 days before he's inaugurated. The question is, what is going to be the Black economic agenda to present to him? Not waiting what they gonna do.
Mhm.
No, you already said there are 4 agencies. Okay, what are we going to be making in terms of demands to the agencies? And we should be saying, this is how it should be structured. This is what it should do. Here are the problems with your loan program and what you go. And so we're the ones who had to go through this. That's how but the individual, that's how our individual expertise informs the conversation when we're meeting with leaders, because now all of a sudden, when we're saying, "No, I had to go through this, and somebody goes, "Damn, that's a whole lot." Precisely, if it was done this way, it'd be more efficient. They don't know that.
That's
right.
true.
Good
I
point.
had a
That's a great
conversation
point.
with the head of the SBA. Well, I don't think it was the complete head, but one of the top people a few years ago. And she was new to the job and she didn't realize how many steps there were for people to actually get approved. And she had changed some things just because of that, because of her learning how archaic some of the steps were. I want to move to education and employment. So preparing our kids all the way up to reskilling people for 21st century jobs. About 8-9 months ago, you had a gentleman come on who said that Black people are expected to lose 4.3 million jobs due to AI in the next decade.
Right.
That
That
stuck
was
with me. I always quote
that was
it.
Spencer Overton with the Joint Center for Political and Economic Studies.
And I always quote that for people. We need to reskill in the worst way, right? Danielle actually asked a question in my email about Secretary of Education and the types of policies that are going to be pivotal in closing the learning gaps among Black students and our counterparts. So I wanted to ask you that on behalf of Danielle and all the parents, and employees who are out here.
Okay, so I'm going to answer the question, but I'm gonna go back to what I said just a few moments ago.
Mhm.
What is your focus? The NRA has never released a statement on affirmative action. The NRA ain't never weighed in on same-sex marriage. You could be a Black transgender with blue hair, and if you cool with the Second Amendment and guns, you a member. I'm saying that because, again, I want our entities to be laser-like focused on what the issue is. And I know this may sound crazy, but yes, on the business side, you are concerned with education, you are concerned with skill set, you are concerned with what's happening in the schools, but the reality is that's really somebody else's job. Access to capital, building capacity is a completely whole separate deal than that. So look, but to that particular point, one of the things that we have to really be honest about, and it's hard for us to do that, is technology technology is a double-edged sword. We are literally learning that right now since the COVID pandemic.
Mhm.
What he said about AI, COVID has now accelerated that by 5 years.
Mhm.
Let's just be real clear, okay? We're going to be in the midst of this COVID thing. I've been saying at the absolute earliest, I believe, is October 2021. I'm really saying January 2022. But think about this here. How many jobs ain't coming back?
A lot.
Because what has happened now is this has gone on so long. This is about to completely change everything. Okay, you got business owners on here. Perfect example. How many people that you used to send out to travel, and you now realize we ain't gonna send them out?
Mhm.
Why are we doing site visits?
Mhm.
Yep.
We are just as effective utilizing Zoom, Google Meets, Microsoft Teams, whatever program. So now all of a sudden, that's going to change travel. That means I don't need to require the travel agency. That's going to impact car service. That's going to impact car rentals. It's going to impact all of that. The United Airlines CEO said, we're not going to get back to normal until 2024. That's what he said, 2024. So now when we talk about skill set and development, we should be really thinking about what are going to be educationally the jobs for the next 20, 30, 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
But also realizing it's no longer about specialty. It's not just about a particular specialty. So for instance, I'm sitting here where I'm sitting. It's literally 7 lights, green screen, switcher, monitor. I know how to run all of this by myself. If this was the old way, then I would have needed 2 other people to handle this.
Mm-hmm.
Think about that. That's now meaning that's 2 to 3 jobs
Gone.
gone.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
So the question now is, okay, what are the growth sectors, and then what are the skill development when it comes to those areas? And see, this whole student loan debate, I've long argued that the real fundamental problem with our student loan debate is that we had a 20 to 30 year constant 4-year, go to college, which I totally got, without realizing everybody ain't going to college.
Mm-hmm.
65% of all jobs in America are actually trained through community colleges. But the whole intensity was 4-year. When I was in Chicago, ComEd, they had a shortage of people. They were retiring because the people who climbed up power lines and stuff like that. They had a massive people, baby boomers are retiring. They created a 9-month certification program with the City College of Chicago at Kennedy King, where my wife was vice president. 9-month program. Completed the program, got hired, starting salary was $70,000 with overtime. You can make up to $120,000. There's some attorneys not making $70,000.
Mm-hmm.
So again, what now has to happen is we now have to completely rethink this society in terms of what we're forcing. I totally get STEM. 60% of jobs in Silicon Valley are non-engineering. 60%. So we're going STEM,
Mm-hmm.
but the majority of the jobs ain't got nothing to do with STEM.
And that's
So-
also not everybody's wheelhouse. Not everyone's.
No. But it's ain't wheelhouse. But again, think of how much we heard STEM. Oh my God, STEM. But wait a minute. But a majority of the jobs, not even STEM.
So where are they going to work? Right.
Which we should be saying is, what are these jobs?
Right.
That's right.
So what we can be saying is, no. You can work in Silicon Valley,
Without that.
but it don't have to be STEM.
Mm-hmm.
See, all of our attention is literally on the 40% of jobs when the 60% are not STEM. So we have to sometimes, I think, step back and go, wait a minute, what are we actually saying? And what are we telling I got more journalism. Look, I majored in journalism. I've had more conversations with journalism students. Folks say, I got my journalism degree, we'll get my master's. Why? They're like,
Yeah,
what do you
you
mean?
didn't. Yeah.
I said, why?
Mhm.
I said, why are you gonna get your master's? I said, it's not gonna add a penny to your salary. They're like, but I could teach one day. I said, your ass 23. I said, if you already are thinking, well, I may not cut it, but I could teach one day if I got my master's. I said, you know, get your master's at 40. Why are you going to incur debt today
Yeah.
at 23? So now you get out, now you 25 with more debt. I said, well, you can actually get your master's at 40. I said, now you can focus on working for 15 years. And guess what? You might end up at a company that will pay for you to go get your master's.
Mm-hmm.
They look at me like I was crazy.
Mm-hmm. He's right.
So what we are saying educationally has to change. We have to start when we're asking somebody, what do you want to do? No. See, this is what we say. What are you going to college and major in? No. I ask, what you going to do? I'm matching job with major. So you need to learn what are the skill sets needed for this job. And am I getting that from this school and this major?
And a lot of times you don't even need to school these days.
Exactly.
I think Facebook and Google have said they're not even going to schools anymore.
Right. But
they don't need a degree.
But here's the deal. Most jobs, and here's the other piece. And again, and look, I know people say, Roland, you're wrong. It's a sheet of paper. Let me just be real clear. I deal with my niece. My niece was sitting here. Oh my God, she was freaking all out. So she works for my company, and she said she wants to go into film. She was just going crazy. And I was like, why are you stressed? She goes, because I'm trying to keep my grades up. I said, you trying to keep your grades up for what? I said, is your financial aid predicated on a certain grade? And she was, well, no. I said, so why are you stressing? Now, again, I know this is controversial, and there are people out there who will say, Roland, you're wrong for it. When I was in college, and all this, because it goes to your question about skill set.
Mm-hmm.
When I was in college, this is real simple. I was like, now this is a sheet of paper. I just need to be able to check off, yeah, I got one. It's a sheet of paper. So I had to make a decision. Am I going to spend an inordinate amount of time studying in this English class, this history class, this speech communications class, this sociology class, all these classes, or am I going to spend a lot of time on my media skill set? I chose skill set. I had a professor who got pissed off at me. It was an English class. He said, you come to my class late. You did perform well in the study. I said, dude, I'm gonna be perfectly honest with you. I don't give a damn about this class. I did. I said, I don't give a damn about this class. I said, all I need in your class is a D. He looked at me.
My goodness, my mother would kill me.
But hold on. But
I'm an
no,
HR
but wait.
professional, and for 30 years, I have never asked anyone for their grades.
But here's the deal.
Never.
See, but hold on, no. But I want to say what you just said. You just said my mama would kill me.
My mama would
And
kill
that but that's the problem. That's the problem right there. We are sitting here putting enormous amounts of pressure
Right there.
on kids to make A's and B's for a sheet of paper nobody is ever gonna ask you for.
Yeah.
That has nothing to do with your skill set. Now, again, if you're trying to become a doctor, an engineer, a lawyer, and then you got the next level. I get all of that. What I'm arguing is that are you developing skills
Mhm.
compared to, oh, I got an A and B. The day I graduated, December 1991, Texas A&M, I remember it was so many of us graduating. It was so long. I walked across the street to Memorial Student Center, got me a newspaper, and read it on the floor. On the cover of the business section of the USA Today on that day, it was a story about college graduates not being able to find a job. I'm sitting there, and 3 rows in front and 3 rows back, folks behind me. None of them had jobs. I had mine since November.
Mhm.
I was sitting there kicking it. So I didn't give a damn about no magna cum laude, about no cum laude. I didn't give a damn about no high GPA. That meant nothing to me. Because guess what? All those folks who I graduated with, who had high grade point averages, I made way more money than them.
So I wanna agree with you.
Because
But I
I
wanna
built
raise you
skill
one.
set.
It's skill set plus networks. So when
Right.
I was in college, so I had parents that did the best they could. I love my parents, but they did not really instill in me the power of building your relationships
Because they
before you
didn't
leave
know.
college.
They didn't
We
know.
didn't know
No. I need you to
exactly.
rephrase
I-
that. They didn't build it because they didn't know.
Exactly.
We don't
Yes.
if we truly study our families, look, there's a great in the movie Hoodlum, Lawrence Fishburne says, when you don't know, you don't know.
Mhm.
They just didn't know.
Yeah.
And so what I'm arguing about skill set is that here's the gap that I think about when we pledge folks, we think about the missing link. The biggest problem with high schools is you don't have real guidance counselors. Okay? To actually work with somebody, look at who you are. If you ain't good at math, why your ass trying to go in science? It's not, and it's just being real.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's understanding who you are. So it's a guidance counselor. Okay. So let's say they now go to college. Now they go to college, but you don't actually have professionals who they are engaging with, who are providing them real knowledge and what's going to be required when they graduate.
Mhm.
So to your point about the professional networks, being able, so if you're going to accounting, National Association of Black Accountants, engineering, National Society of Black Engineers, professional organization King talked about, journalists, National Association of Black Journalists, National Black MBAs. Those entities serve as that sort of place for us to network. Now, let me go back to when I talk about never giving a damn about the homeboys class. I had a choice to make. Am I going to take road trips with our NABJ chapter to our regional conference, to the national convention, and meet people who are in the business? Or am I going to sit here and spend this time reading 100 pages of somebody's work who, frankly, I can read when I graduate?
Mhm.
Look, am I worried about somebody? Okay. I mean, I'm sitting here right now. Let's see. Eric Foner's Reconstruction right here. That's 600 pages. W.B. Du Bois, Black Reconstruction in America. Oh, that's 730. The Obama book, David Garrow, upstairs at 1,300 pages. Let's see. Gerald Horne's book on white supremacy in America. Oh, let's see. There's 856 pages. And so my level of my classroom reading couldn't even match my personal reading.
Yeah, I do agree. Yeah.
But the organizations, and again, you don't know that unless if I meet a Black student who's a senior and they're not a member of a professional organization, I say you wasted 4 years in college.
Yeah.
Which means that we have to be hardcore when we meet students saying, you're a freshman, what groups are you in? Oh, I'm not in any group. Get your ass in the organization. How are you gonna meet people? How are you gonna network? How are you gonna develop content? What's happening is they are literally walking out of college going, I got my degree, but you don't know nothing, you don't know nobody.
And not just college now too.
Right.
I mean,
But
you're
then
40 years old, you don't have a network.
So now what happens? Now what happens is that they don't know nobody, don't know nothing.
Mhm.
You're coming on jobs, and in their mind, they think they should be getting paid $55,000. And you're like, your ass got a $30,000 skill set. They think this equates to the salary. What they don't realize is the salary equates to the skill set.
That's that. Yeah.
So then I don't know anybody, and then they're not understanding that in certain businesses, what cities are you going to? So in my business, the top media markets, New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, Dallas, you got your top 10 media markets. So you think you're gonna walk out of college and just walk into a top level job in LA and New York? No, that ain't how it works. You only learn that through professional organizations. And so part of this thing on the business side, what we've got to do is be hardcore, where the places where we graduate, to also say, here are your shortcomings as a university. You've got to bring our expertise back. So we are talking to the next generation, because many of them are coming out of college woefully unprepared. And then what ends up happening? They have jobs where they're being underpaid. Now they're frustrated. Then they're too damn impatient. They quit. They go back home, live with mom and daddy. That's why you got folks who are 28, 29, 30, 31, 32 still living at home. And I'm sitting there going, like I had one person who said, you know, I'm struggling to make ends meet. I said, that shit is called adulting. I said, what, you thought you were going to graduate and you were going to have this major surplus of income every month? I'm like,
yeah.
I said, that's called being an adult. So it's this, and so we have created this system, and we really can't fault Gen Zs and millennials, because we've created a system that leaves them mired in debt, grossly undeveloped skill set, and we put so much pressure on them to get top grades. They walking around damn near depressed, taking antidepressants and freaking all out. Like I told my niece, girl, I don't give a damn about that class. Hurry the hell up and graduate. But again,
she's hiring your niece.
Oh, no. But I made it clear to her, but you got to have a skill set. Mm-hmm. And I said, I will fire you. You screw up, I will fire you. Family don't mean nothing. You ain't getting away of the job. Mm-hmm. But again, it's being real. And I think that's where we are. It's a fundamental problem, is that we're not being really, really honest with folks. We're placating them, and it's not helping them. And that's causing significant problems, I think, in the workplace, because y'all know, y'all don't want, look, I ain't got a problem with it. I hate most of the millennials and Gen Zs I've hired. They don't know shit. And it's a struggle, because we sitting there like, what are you doing? But it's also understanding sort of where they are, what they didn't get. They literally believe the sheet of paper is all they need. And it's like, that's going to last you probably about 48 hours on a real job.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Yep. Even when I came out of college, I was so green, you know. So, all right. So we have a couple of additional questions here. I do want to go for a second into home ownership, because, you know, that is another pillar of wealth. What do you see forthcoming? What some things we should be aware of when it comes to home ownership? Well, again, the problem with home ownership today is that the fact of the matter is, a younger generation, they're not buying homes. They simply don't have the capital to do so. Also, we have to understand this generation is far more transient than previous generations. They also, again, living at home, things along those lines. And so their needs and desires, technology has totally changed all of that. And so we have to factor in, and this is going to be a problem, because what technology has now done is technology and how they think. See, we have to. That was a great documentary, The Social Dilemma. It's on Netflix. You got to see it, because it talks about how social media has completely changed how this generation thinks, how it dominates so much of what we do. And so, prior to this social media world, it was absolutely, they would own a home, stable place. Here's what you got. You own, you buy it, blah, blah, blah. These folks don't want to be in one place. They want to go from here to here. They'll quit a job just because I just want to go live. Mm-hmm. I mean, we have really a bunch of nomads. So the problem now is going to be, when they hit 40 and 45, what y'all gonna do? So there's this psychological thing. I mean, I ain't trying to do all that. And so, but now, are you gonna put yourself being a renter? So I own my home in Dallas. I moved to Chicago. I'm now here in DC area, but I still own my home in Chicago. 11 years ago,
My parents are 73. My mom will be 73 next week. Dad 73 in April. So when they turned 62, he took early railroad retirement. They were living in an apartment. They had a house in Houston, moved out of the house in Houston. House we grew up in, moved to another house, and then moved to an apartment. They were downsizing. They were like, we're going to get a smaller apartment. I was like, shit, smaller than this? And I said, y'all go live. My sister and her niece were living in my home in Dallas. My sister was not capable of taking care of a 2,500 square foot house in the yard, everything else. I was like, y'all go live in my house in Dallas? My dad was like, shit, rent free. He's like, I'll take care of the house. He a clean freak and all that. He's like, I'll take care of the house. 2 months later, they had packed up. So now think about it. Here the house is paid off. I own the asset. All I do is pay the property taxes. Okay. Bought the home for 122. I get calls and texts every damn day because now it's been appraised at $100,000 more than that. Okay. My parents live there. My sister and her niece live there. So now you have 3 generations of my family living in a home that they're not paying rent for. Okay. That I own. So that is that greatly benefits my brother and my 2 other sisters because we're not having to pay those things for my parents. Okay. So owning the home has paid dividends. Bought in 1999. So now we're in 2020. So that was important. The next generation, millennials and Gen Z's, not going to have the issue. Again, I look at my sister, born in 78, so my sister's 43. I'm like, when you gonna get your own place? See, she's a perfect example. Love my sister, but still the point is, you're 43, and for the last 19 years, you lived at my home, but you don't have your own home. So you haven't had anything that you've been investing in. And so then now, what happens? If anything happens to me, anything happens to my wife, my parents, now what? And so it's a different generational mindset. So that's going to impact the Black home ownership rate. And so we keep saying the Black home ownership rate got to 40.9% in 2019, went ticked back up 42, 44. We've never gotten back to the highest point it was during when Bill Clinton was president. But now we got the other thing that we got to deal with is a whole generation who goes, owning a home? I'm not trying to deal with that. I want to pick up and go wherever I want to go. That's going to have a direct impact on wealth, and it's going to have a direct impact on what is going to be your quality of life once you hit 60. They ain't thinking about that.
They aren't. And my father had his home paid off when he retired. He had a little bit of money in the bank, and I saw his quality of life as a retiree was just so different. That's my goal. It's like,
Right.
have a house paid off, have some money in the bank, if Social Security is around, I'll be cool. Right?
No, but we have to connect the dots. And so again, when we bring these things up about the Black home ownership rate, we got to remember, okay, when are folks actually buying their home? Okay, so let's say somebody, so you're talking about 99, again, 22 years ago. So I bought the house, I was married, I got divorced, about that house when I was 30. So I bought my house when I was 30. I'm now 52. Okay, paid the house off 10 years ago, longer than that, 12 years ago. I can't remember when paid about 12 years ago. So the house been paid off more than a dozen years. But so the point here is we got to look at the numbers today. So when we start talking about housing, we got to look at African Americans who are now 30 to 35, and then go, what's their home ownership rate? See, that's going to determine what's going to be the next 10 years. Yeah. So if the overall Black home ownership rate is 42, 44%, and we look at that, how many of that 44% is comprised of people who are right now 30 to 35? And then we should be looking at the Black housing group, this is where they come in, to be looking at, okay, for these African Americans who are now 24 to 30, surveying them, getting their thoughts on home ownership, that's going to dictate the number's going to be 10, 20 years from now.
Mhm.
And so to your point, we're going to have a wealth problem because generationally and with technology, they don't want to own cars. They're living in a whole new world where they don't even drive to go eat. It's got Uber Eats. They can call. Technology has completely changed how they live. So they don't look at the world the same way we do, and they aren't thinking about when they're 50 plus.
Yeah.
It will be a problem in 25, 30 years.
I agree. So I'm going to let my other co-host ask a question. And I know we have some questions in the Q&A as well. So Eric, why don't we start off with you? Either ask one of your own questions or a question you saw in the chat.
You know, I just want to ask Roland, like really quick on that. Roland, do you see, because most millennials now, they kind of see that as being a benefit, that they would not be tied down to, you know, any of these homes or anything like that. Of course, they saw what happened with the crash of 2008, but do you kind of somewhat see it from their vantage point in any way, or you think?
No, because it has to be well thought out. So let me just give you an example. I've now been in Virginia. I've been in the DC area for 10 years. So I still own a home in Dallas, and when we moved here, we leased a home. Folks are like, why are you leasing a home? Well, because when I moved here, I was under contract with TV1. I was under contract with CNN. I was under contract with Tom Joyner Morning Show. So 3 years, moved in October 2010. April 2013, CNN ends. Okay, so that income gone. Do the TV1, do that through that ended August 31st, 2018. Okay, Tom Joyner retired at the end of December 2019. The issue there was, okay, do I buy a home in Virginia not knowing with my contracts how long am I going to be here? We were also, remember, moving here 2010, we were still coming out, we were still dealing with the home crisis. So then it was, okay, do I want to buy a home in Virginia? What if contracts end and I move back to Texas or somewhere else? And now I'm stuck with this home, and I was looking at how long a lot of these homes were on the market. So I made a calculated decision not to buy, because if I had to put down 10, 20%, I'm looking at home values. Okay, do I want to hand over right now $200,000, $100,000 or $200,000 on a $1 million home? Okay, so I was sitting here, again, I was factoring all those things in. Did it make much more sense? Again, I'm factoring in, I already own a home. My cars were paid off the moment I bought them. Does it make more sense for me to lease? Looking at my age, remember 10 years ago, I was 42, saying that, okay, now if I get into my 50s and then contracts end, not knowing I was going to launch my own show, any of those different things, I wanted the flexibility at that age to be able to pack up, move back home or somewhere else, buy me. If I gave them $200,000 down payment for $1 million house, 20% here in Virginia, I could actually buy me a $250,000 house in Texas. See, so I'm factoring all those things in. So my decision-making process was a little bit different because I was factoring in all of those other different things. Other folks who are in different areas make different decisions. I think what they're looking at is just this whole transient idea. I just don't want to be stuck with a home or whatever, but they're not thinking of also future value. I can make that decision because I already own a $200,000 asset. I already had it. So my decision making was a lot different. And their decision making is, this is where I am now, but they're not thinking about where will I be in 25, 30 years. Because see, so the problem is you decide now at 30. So now what happens when you're 45 and you don't own jack? Okay, so let's say at 45, okay, I'm gonna buy a home. Well, now, 30-year mortgage? You bought at 45. Let's say you paid off in 20 years. Now you're 65. Now, what's your job? What's your income? What are the property taxes to pay on the home? See, it's all those different things. And now I own it. I have an asset. And so the problem is they're choosing not to buy a home because I don't want to get saddled, but they're not looking at the home as a financial asset that actually can help them improve their quality of life later. So they're not factoring in the quality of life when they hit 60 plus. That's what they're not factoring in. And that's the problem. So it's gonna hit them when they turn 45, 50, like, when the hell am I gonna live with my ass old? They're having fewer children. My parents have the benefit of 5 kids. One of their kids owns a home. They're now they're now benefiting from their investment into me and my work, living in a home for a decade because I own it. Well, what's going to happen to the generation that ain't got kids?
Makes sense.
Yeah. So Tawana?
Yeah, I was just thinking about what you just said. I mean, it sounds like as parents, we have an obligation to make those millennials we talk about, make them aware of what's important. The fact that they need to start thinking about home ownership now. And they need to start thinking about their future now. Yeah, life's easier, with technology, but we can't forget, if we are blessed enough to get old, we have to figure out how to live when we get there. And so I think as parents, we have to start having these conversations. Even the conversation we had earlier about school, that whole, striving and working hard and stressing out to get A's conversation. Yeah, it was a little controversial, but I think people needed to hear that because we put so much pressure on our children. And I can tell you again, in almost 30 years of HR experience, I have never asked for grades. And I think about kids who have committed suicide as a result of that pressure,
right,
and everything. And we just have to rethink this. We know more now, and we have the opportunity to do better for that younger generation so that they don't have to worry and stress over the things that we've struggled with over the years. I mean, we just have to do better.
And look, if when I run to people and they say, well, I just always want a law degree, but what you gonna do with it? Well, I just always wanted one. And here's my deal. If you got the money to waste on it, go right ahead. But if you're telling me you're going to amass debt because you always wanted one, or your mama and your daddy wanted to see you get a master's one day. See, I'm telling you, one of the things for African Americans, and I get it. One of the things for us is that our parents and grandparents never had. So they dreamed of things. But we got to understand that that's their dream. I didn't do things educationally to please my parents. I know some people may say, man, what the hell? I didn't. If my daddy said, son, I really wish you had gotten a law degree. Man, I ain't going to get one. Because you ain't the one who got to study and pay for it. I'm not going through all of that. I was reading a book. There was a guy, he came from St. Kitts. Moved here. His mom was telling everybody, my son's an engineer. My son's gonna go work for IBM. He gonna work for IBM. Comes to DC, gets a job at Howard University. My man launches his own janitorial business. Mama comes to visit. Mama is disappointed in her son. What is this? You are a janitor? Mama, I own the company. Mama got caught up in talking to her friends about my baby work at IBM. When I got Journalist of the Year from NABJ in 2013, this is what I said. Too many of us are enamored with the largest of the letters on our business card. We have great big companies with small opportunities. There was a sister worked in corporate America, major company. I mean, major company. They basically said, we're not going to take you higher. She's shocked. She's stunned. She is smart. She's brilliant. She's depressed. So I'm sitting talking to her. And I'm like, your point about networking earlier. Do you know this person, this person, this person, this person? She's like, no. I'm like, okay, I'm going to introduce you to these people. We sitting there talking. I was like, okay, I need you to email this person. She's like, what do you mean? I said, oh, you thought I was joking. I texted him while we were sitting here. I said, all right. I said, I don't wait. Fast forward 5 months. I hit her up. I'm like, yo, I heard from the COVID. She's like, oh my God. She says, Roland, how did you know? I said, what do you mean, how did I know? She said, the job that I now have is a global EVP job, paying her double. Mind you, the company she's with is smaller than the company that did not want her. She's at a smaller company making double what they were paying her. Double the money, greater responsibilities, completely blew her away. And I said, I tried to tell you. I said, you were so caught up in them, and you, but why can't I rise here when boo, there's other companies out there? Take your skill set and take it over here. So that's where we're going. That's what's going on. We're caught up with that. We're caught up in the smallness. There are some of us out there who are entrepreneurs. We are caught up in, but this is my business. It's my card says CEO. Well, that's stupid, because if I merge with them, Jeff Bezos don't own 75% of Amazon, but his ass worth $100 billion. He's the richest man in the world. So part of the deal, even with entrepreneurs, we're going to have to get out of this mindset that I'm the shot caller, big baller. If I have the opportunity to merge or acquire 2 or 3 other businesses, and now I have scale in my sector, and I own 30% of a $20 million company, when before I own 100% of a company that was doing 500,000, I can do the math. But that's removing the ego. And I think that's what happens. What happens. We get caught up in somewhat is like, well, our parents is our parents that, and it's just thinking it through. And again, it's not for every industry. There are industries where you're going to have to buckle down. You got to have those A's and B's. You got to have the high grade point average. You got to be able to get into medical school, get into law school, all those different things like that. That's a small number of jobs. I'm talking about teaching people to say, this is my major, but this is the career I'm trying to achieve. This is what I need to be successful in my career. So I now got to do a cost benefit analysis. Am I going to learn more learning how to do my job that I'm going to graduate from? Or am I going to do more sitting here writing this paper? It's a cost benefit analysis. I do this now every single day. Do I spend 2 hours on this, or do I do this? I had to tell somebody they wanted me to do something. I said, y'all can't do that. They were like, why? I said, because one, that takes up too much of my time. They were like, what else you got to do? I said, do you realize that I can take an hour and come up with ways to make $100,000? I said, so don't think an hour of downtime for me is a waste. No, I'm thinking about how to get bigger. But not even that. If you go to my kitchen table, and I got like 4 or 5 different places all around this house, I got stuff. I'm tinkering, I'm learning, I'm practicing, I'm building a skill set. All that goes in it. I just think we need a radical readjustment in our thinking when we talk about Black entrepreneurship and moving forward. And I think that's one of the biggest problems that we have with this generation. And it requires being hardcore honest. Last thing, and I'll say this here, my wife and I we raised 16-year-old nieces. Since they were this is the 6th time we've raised them, and we raised off and on 6 of my nieces. Too many of us are playing games when it comes to finances. When I bought them Apple laptops, I sat them down and I was like, yo, this is the most expensive thing your ass ever had. You break it, I'm not replacing it. I had real conversation with them about how much stuff costs and what it means to replace it. Oh, you lost your AirPods. Ain't my damn problem. You got paid, you bought it one time. And I go hardcore with them because I need them to have an understanding to begin to process these things differently. I think a lot of us, frankly, have been shielding the next generation away from the real cost. I had a young girl, I had a young sister who, when I had to cut all of my salary, my staff by 20% back in April because of COVID. I cut mine by 50. And then we hit July, I restored 10%. And she came to me and she goes, well, what about the other 10%? I said, I'm sorry, I just restored 10 of the 20 that was cut. She's like, well, I'm seeing these people send checks in, join the Bring Funk fan club. And so why can't we get the full 20% restored? I said, you do know you're not the only one who works here. I said, 2, you do know that you were also the last hired, which really mean when COVID hit, you should have been the first one fired. I said, I don't have to explain this to you, but I will explain this to you. You don't know shit about business. I said, rent, utilities, staff. I went through the whole deal. I said, so you think these checks that are coming in is going to cover all of that, then restore your 20%? I said, no, but that ain't how it worked. Now, I didn't have to have the conversation with her, right, but I needed her to understand the economics of her business that goes outside of her job. And sometimes I think as entrepreneurs, we got to sit our employees down and say, let me be real with y'all. A lot of us don't want to do that. I think we got to do it sometimes.
We do. Just time for one more question. We want to make sure Dr. Keisha gets to ask her question.
Yes, I really just wanted to say to you, Roland, everything you said about education. I'm an educator. I'm a high school teacher. I work with special education students. I have my own kids. You are absolutely right with regard to the whole idea of these grades. But more than that, what I wanted to step back to say is, well, what we really are dealing with right now is just a seismic shift. A paradigm shift that's really happened in terms of systems and just everything, where we really have to rethink everything. And as you mentioned before, our parents did what they could do. We are seeing it now. And we as adults in this moment, many of us, we are obviously all of us are the same age. I'm 53. And, I've been here before the computers and now with the computers. And so I have the benefit of being able to see where things can go and recognize exactly what you just mentioned, the real shift that's happened because of technology. So when we ask our kids what it is they want to do, we really should be asking them what problem do they want to solve? And what you just mentioned in terms of being somebody who's constantly learning, tinkering, and doing things like that, and keeping it real, because that really is the situation here. We have this mentality that everything's a 30-minute show, kind of movie, kind of sitcom or something, and it just isn't that way. We're coming out about everything. We need to come real about how everything works and comes together. And I appreciate you.
when you mention when you talk about the tinkering thing. So here's what happens. There are people. And I guarantee you there are people who are watching this right now and they are in this group. They have allowed themselves to say, oh my God, I'm 53. I don't know these things. Let me go get a millennial. Let me just be as blunt as possible. I don't need a millennial or Gen Z for shit. They can't. Let me be real clear. They can't teach me about technology.
Correct.
Because I'm ahead of them. Correct. See, I'm not stopping. And see, the other thing is here. I'm telling you, there's somebody who's on right now. You are failing in your business because you refuse to learn more about technology. Right. You are paying other people to do stuff. And now you're solely dependent on them to do it because you refuse to learn it because you keep saying, oh, I don't know this stuff. Look, my parents are 73. When a hurricane hit Houston, it was after when Katrina hit, there was another hurricane that came right behind it that came towards Houston. And my parents had to flee to my home in Dallas. And I remember it was a 10-hour ride from Houston to Dallas, normally it's 4 hours. And then there were people who were on rooftops in New Orleans who they could not call out, but they could text out. So they were in the car. I told my mom, I said, hey, bring the damn manual with you. I said, and mom was like, what? I said, learn the damn text in the car. I'm like, sit with y'all gonna be in the car for 10 hours. Sit with the manual, learn the text. Now, Lord, I don't know what that happened. Now it's being, now, Lord, she texts, she do all kind of stuff now.
Well,
But the
the
point
other thing I
is,
want to say
they
too,
learn. Go ahead.
well, I was going to say the other thing too about that is that it's not just one directional and one generational, because the truth of the matter is, again, I work with high school kids who are 17 years old, and we often say that they got the tech, all this kind of stuff. They don't have it when it comes to using it for their learning, for their, researching, and nor do they know what to do when the power goes off.
Right. So that's so
when the Wi-Fi
right.
is out.
There you go.
That's where the older generation could come in.
There you go.
So we don't have to feel less than. It's a two-way street.
Right. So they know. So they are telling me, you may know how to use the tech, but do you know how to work it?
Exactly.
See, I mean, I could sit here. I mean, look, if I didn't have greater aspirations in terms of building a network, I could right now, because we're living in the virtual space. Right now, I could lay off half of my staff, get out of my lease, and the additional $40,000 in expenses a month, I could pocket that. Because right now we're totally virtual. I don't actually need my studio. I don't actually need my set. All I need is, how we have it set up, is the control room, and I could actually have that built in somebody's house, or build it in my house and have the worker come here. So there's all kind of ways to do it. So the reason I'm saying that is because, to the people out there with your business, how you have to visualize this thing. We're like right now, so we're in this COVID world right now. I'm literally emailing, there's a group in Atlanta, and I might very well have them build me a live truck. Now, I guarantee you, somebody right now is saying, why in the hell would you spend $120,000 to $150,000 on a live truck vehicle? Well, first, if you not start projecting 2-3 years from now, most of our events are going to be outdoors. 2, travel is still a bitch. So if I got 3 people are concerned about COVID. Most of your Black events, Black America is in a reverse L. Southeast, 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 Southwest, you go out Midwest, and then not much out West. So basically, most stuff we're going to be covering is going to be East Coast, whatever. So now all of a sudden, if we get this vehicle, now gear goes in, we can travel. Okay, we got it completely opens up us to be able to do more stuff. Somebody else would go, but why would you invest it? Well, first of all, I'm gonna have to pay taxes. I already know the check I gotta write. It's a big ass check. So if I can sit here and do this, now that this expands what I'm doing, somebody else would say that's crazy. And I'm going, yep, you probably think it's crazy, but I know exactly what's coming down the pipeline. Now I have more flexibility in my business. So the investment I'm making in the business for this truck now is going to allow me to be able to do more things when I'm going to have to give it to the government anyway. So if I got to give 150 grand to them, I might as well get me a write-off. And now I have something that I now can incorporate into my business. Yeah. But again, it's thinking 3, 4, 5 years. Now I can dispatch that for somebody else, and then they can pay me for the services. Mm-hmm. See, so again, but it's also understand the technology. So because I'm the closer you get to a cool tech geek you ever gonna find. So for me, I know the on-camera stuff, I know the tech stuff behind the camera, and I know the business piece. But I can see and take the hat off. And so that's how the thinking is. And so then as I'm doing that, I am teaching my nieces and other folks who are around me how you have to think, because that is the greatest, this is my last point here, the absolute greatest failure of today's education system. And the greatest failure, and I'm going to include parents in that because they're part of the education system, Our formal education system and our informal education system has done a woeful job in the last 20 years teaching people to think.
Correct. Agreed.
They can't think.
That's
They
the
can't
transferable skill.
can't
Period.
think their way out of a problem. You
Right.
can't Google everything. You can't YouTube everything. You have to have critical thinking, which means that you have to actually sit there. And I did this with a radio show, and I was like, okay, how can the people were screwing the phone calls up. So how can I route the phone calls from my iPhone through the mixer into the computer and then broadcast? And I sat there literally staring at this mixer for an hour. I can hear this cable, whatever, this cable. I'm going through this whole different deal. And it's stuff that people don't understand. So perfect example is that if you see this right here, this actually is a microphone cable, but it has 3 black lines on it. That's actually what you use for Apple devices, the 3 lines. If this is a stereo camera I have right now, this is not going to work on that camera because it's 3 lines. That camera requires a 1. This is 2 lines of stereo. If it's 1 line, it's mono. So if you don't sit down and understand what's 3 lines, what's 2 lines, what's 1 line, your ass just plugging stuff up. And you're like, I don't understand why it's not working, because you didn't actually think your way through to understand the different devices and what works with what. So anybody who's an entrepreneur, what you should be doing is, and I know we all want to do it. We just, oh, I got it. No, force your employees to think. That will save them when it's necessary.
And with that, we want to give a virtual round of applause to Mr. Roland Martin for being here with us today. We definitely learned so much, and we are going to have a debrief sometime next week, maybe on Monday, with regards to this conversation, because I think there are some things within here that we as 10K Project need to break down a lot more. There were also some great questions in the Q&A that I think we'll be able to respond to based on the things that Roland has said that we'll kind of bring together. So thank you so much, Mr. Martin, for being here with us today.
Thank you.
God bless everybody.
Roland.
Hope you have a great weekend. Take care.
All right, y'all take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Great holiday.
Right.
Bye-bye.